So tonight's topic, guys, is marketing. So marketing is my favorite topic. I especially like marketing. So I'm excited to be talking with you all about it tonight. And I'm going to actually turn off my video and share the presentation, and then we're going to kind of walk through. If you have any questions along the way, feel free to drop them in the chat box. And at the very end, I'll give everybody the opportunity to open it up to any questions. And right now, I just have everybody on mute just because I'm recording it to kind of calm down some of the background noise, okay? So I'm going to take myself off video, and I'm going to share my screen. As well, along the way, if you have any issues with hearing, just something in the chat box if you can't hear me, or if you want to text me and say you can't hear me as well. Just when you share yours in Zoom, you don't always get the opportunity to see people's comments. So, all right, so let's get started, guys. Again, I'm Shamika. I am the instructor for this Mastermind, Staffing Agency Mastermind course, and we are going into Module 2. So we're officially in week 2. So I hope you guys have gotten a chance to check out any of the first week's videos regarding business foundation and operations. A lot of the information will start flooding into the course by the end of this week, tomorrow, and over the weekend. So check that out periodically. And then each week, I'm going to try to do some sort of Zoom meeting presentation on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So moving forward, it'll be Tuesdays and Thursdays. The time might change a little bit, but otherwise, just kind of look forward to a Zoom session every Tuesday and Thursday for the next 4 weeks. During our SMART Goal session on Tuesday, one of the members asked about whether or not the one-on-one sessions, like how long they are. So the one-to-one sessions are weekly, so they're for you guys. So they're every week since you guys are the first class. So I want to give you guys an opportunity to kind of get your jump start and get going. So every week, if you email me and say, hey, Shamika, I want to meet with you every Wednesday at 5 p.m. or 6 p.m. and I can accommodate that schedule, I'll call and I'll talk with you about your progress every week for the first 4 weeks, which essentially covers the month of August. After that, we'll do the open calls or the conference call sessions monthly. But I wanted to give the first group the opportunity to get jump started and get moving in the right direction and get any support that I can offer. So that's kind of how the one-to-one sessions work. You can email me, and my email address is info@thenosagroup.com. So you can email me there to set up something. And the best way to get things moving is to actually just give me times and dates that you're available. So I will say mornings and evenings are best, but just give me a time and date, a couple of different ones, and I'll definitely work towards trying to accommodate you. So that's all. As well, as I mentioned in the last session last week, Katie's partnering with me on this mastermind. So she's offering a lot of supportive services for you guys looking to set up your branding, as well as doing your website design and kind of creating that package, which is essential. And we kind of touch on a little bit of those things here, but I would encourage you guys, if you haven't yet, to definitely check out her section and actually start going through the process of setting that up, because I'll touch on that more next Tuesday when I talk about the whole social media piece. So if you guys don't have anything, anybody else want to jump in? No? Okay, that's fine. So you can catch us in the replay. It'll be saved onto the group. So again, this is Module 2 in the Staffing Mastermind course, and we are talking about marketing. So with every topic or module that I go over, I always love to start with a quote. So today's quote is about good marketing. So it says, good marketing makes the company look smart, but great marketing makes the customers feel smart. So marketing, whether you're marketing to clients or even marketing your business to employees, is a key element, just like your business foundation, in kind of getting started. So the course objectives today, or module objectives, is to learn about what marketing is, what is the marketing process, how to create a marketing strategy for your business, understand the importance of creating a brand, and like I mentioned before, Katie goes way more in depth about the brand management than I will during this presentation, so definitely connect with her. What is the 3T process? How to reach out to facilities and obtain contracts, how to use Medicare.gov to obtain contracts, and there'll be a separate video that talks more about that. Ways to use social media to market your business, why it's important to set up a Facebook business page and other social media platforms, and creative ways to market your agency effortlessly. So I always want to start with a question just to get people thinking, why do you think you should market your business? Like, what are some of the reasons you should market your business? We have marketing happening all the time to us that we're not always aware of. And one of the great ways that marketing happens is in your everyday life. So like so many of us use our phones all the time. And just by the use of your phone, you're being marketed to. So I'm an Apple gal. So one of the ways that Apple markets is just a little Apple on the phone. That's a marketing strategy, to put that in every piece of their products that they offer. So the marketing process essentially starts with the steps that you're going to take to market your business. And when you think about the steps you're going to take to market your business, you really want to think about what type of outcome do you have in mind. And kind of like where we touched on with the SMART goals, of course, I know the outcome is you want to obtain clients, but let's try and be more specific about what type of outcome, like how many clients, what types of clients. You also want to think about where these clients are located, what types of facilities or healthcare systems are they in, so that when you're actually out there marketing and talking with clients, you're not kind of all over the place. Healthcare is big everywhere. So you don't want to spend your time talking to dialysis clinics when you actually don't intend to staff at dialysis centers. Other things to consider when you talk about the marketing process includes ways to market your business. I already touched on one of the ways that we're marketed to, and that's definitely through print, through media, videos, social media, partnerships, and referrals are ways that we're marketed to, as well as ways that we can actually market our business. And I'll touch on all of those throughout the presentation. Another important step in creating your marketing process is making sure that you have an effective strategy. And essentially a strategy for me is just like, how are you going to get it done? What are the steps, the things you're going to do, the things that you need to have in place if you require it, the people that you need to be in place to make sure that this gets done. And in doing so, you also want to make sure that your strategy is doable. So if you have a tight budget, you want to consider that when you're putting together how you're going to strategize. So if you're not working with $1 million budget, you shouldn't actually be putting together a marketing plan that requires a heavy budget. And I always try to, when I think about marketing, consider my everyday life, as many of us are transitioning from employee to employer. So many of us still work full-time or part-time or in some capacity, maybe PRN. So I think it's important to make it something that you can do on a regular basis that doesn't necessarily interfere. Early on, you do want to kind of go strong and heavy with marketing your business, but once you kind of get yourself in a routine, make it something that you do on a regular basis, but it's not interrupting your day-to-day lifestyle.
And then finally, the last two things are evaluating. So with any process, whether it's a marketing process or recruitment process, you always want to put yourself in a position to evaluate, is it working? Is it effective? Is it giving me the results that I'm looking for? And a great time period to consider when doing that is about 30 to 60 days. And like I mentioned before in the presentation, I'll talk about some tools and steps that you can use to actually evaluate what you're doing, make the right changes, as well as whether or not what you're doing is actually effective. And then, of course, if what you're doing is effective, you want to repeat it, as well as not only repeat it, but you also want to consider perfecting it. So if you're doing something, and I'm going to go back into my example about the iPhone has done an amazing job of perfecting something that works. So for the most part, I think my first iPhone was probably the iPhone 4. The iPhone actually looks very similar over the last 8 or 10 years, but they've done and made small differences besides the actual data piece, but just like the look and feel of it, to make it more efficient, to make it easier. It's a lot slimmer than it was when it was a 6. You know, it's a little bit wider, but not too wide. It's a little sleeker, so it looks a little bit more appealing. So those are all ways that they have found something that works, which is a cell phone that people enjoy and use often and have that brand management, but also they've taken out the time to perfect beyond just the internal pieces. They've also taken out the time to perfect and make changes with the aesthetics. So here are some questions I want you to consider. So with every presentation that I do, just in case you guys haven't realized, I always want to ask questions of you guys. I always want you to be thinking about different things as you embark on this journey of becoming a healthcare staffing agency owner, so that when the question actually applies, because not always is the question applicable at the time, you actually have an answer. So here are some of the questions I want you to consider. So you can either write these down, or like I mentioned before, they'll be saved onto the group presentation, as well as this video will get saved tomorrow. So a question to consider is, when you're thinking about marketing your business, who's your audience? Who are you trying to market to? You also want to think about, where are they located? How easily accessible they are. And this one, number 3, is so key. Working in healthcare, getting in touch with the right person that can make the decisions for you to yay or nay a contract for you is so key. So you want to really have a strategy in place where you're spending the least amount of time talking to the people who can't say yes or no to you, and really moving through the system or through the process or chain of command to get to the person who can tell you yes or no. As well, you want to think about, what is your communication plan? Are you going to email? Are you going to phone call? Are you going to do a phone call, then an email? Are you going to send out flyers or any sort of print communication about your agency? As well, if you use a marketer, which a lot of up-and-coming healthcare staffing agencies do, or someone to assist you with the marketing, who will be doing that, or what will they be doing on your team? So who will be doing it, and what will they be doing on the team? So if, for instance, you decide to have someone in your family who's really, really good at social media set up your social media platforms, you want to be really clear as far as like how much you want them to do. Do they just want you to do the basics where you just open up an account, or do you want them to actually put content onto your social media platforms for your business? Or do you want them to run the whole social media platform for you? So that's something to consider, as well as how will you track your progress, which we touched on a little bit as well. What are your expected results, and how will you evaluate success? So the last 2 questions I want you to think about are important. As small business owners, we don't have the same bandwidth as a bigger agency. So we don't have the ability to have like a marketing team, or even to have multiple individuals working for us. Very early on, we're that. I'm the marketing team, I'm the marketer, I'm the point of contact, I'm the person that's going to evaluate the results. So a good way to do that as far as condensing your time is to really have a strong marketing plan in place that you can easily move through. Something very similar, and I'll say one into the group, to the SMART goals, where you can say, hey, every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I'm going to make phone calls. On Tuesday, Thursday, I'm going to do follow-up emails. Based on the response that I get, I'll evaluate in 30 days the outcome. So another tool, which is what I'll actually leave into the group, is you're creating a marketing or SWOT analysis. So this tool is really a great thing to use because it allows you to consider all the possible variables prior to implementing your marketing plan. And when we talk about variables, we think about things that are outside of your control, things that, you know, you didn't consider. Many times you don't always consider, you know, in certain regions, you know, they have higher or lower needs with regards to staffing. In specific areas, for instance, where there's a lot of snow, they may have high needs for staffing, but it might be very challenging to recruit staff to go out there. So that's something that you want to consider. That may not be a case in a state like Florida, where you have pretty much great weather all year round. As well, you want to think about what areas you as a business might have some weaknesses. And some weaknesses that just come off the top of my head from a marketing standpoint of view is just experience. And a great way to flip that around is, yeah, you may not be an agency owner who has years and years of experience, but you have more than enough experience as a healthcare professional. So you've worked in these settings, you understand how scheduling works, you understand the concept of travel nurses and staff nurses and kind of the intermingling of the two to, you know, to provide support and patient care to healthcare systems and facilities. And then, of course, threats and opportunities. That could be a variety of things. Some people may consider other agencies in states where there's a big or medium-sized agency that's kind of gobbled up all the contracts. That could be considered a threat. But it also could be an opportunity where there may be some states where there's multiple agencies, where there's opportunities there as well. Next, when you think about marketing, you want to think about what types of marketing tips or tools are effective. So effective types of marketing in healthcare staffing. So there's so many different types of marketing that's out there. You really want to focus your time and attention on those things that are effective. So there's no need to repeat. There's really no need to repeat the cycle. You use what other agencies use. The difference would be that you're an OSA, as well as the difference would be that you bring your own unique take on the process. So some of the effective types of marketing in healthcare staffing include social media. I'll touch on that a little bit. Searches, YouTube videos, websites, blogs. They're all digital opportunities that many agencies use, and even more so now with COVID-19. I'm not sure if you guys have noticed, many more agencies are using Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter to communicate their openings than they maybe did a year or so prior. Like their presence on social media has increased substantially, partially because more of us are at home. Even healthcare workers, more of us for different reasons, whether it's that we can't work during this time, or it might be a situation where we're taking care of loved ones or children, so we're at home. You have a little bit more limited access, so more of us are getting information from social media and things of that nature. So when you think about marketing, you want to kind of think about things that are already working. So your website, which of course is a given. And I touched on, you guys who are working with Katie to set up your website, that's going to always be something that you need. But when you want to make a connection with a lot of businesses or fellow businesses, using social media really gets you a lot of exposure. And websites like LinkedIn, a lot of people don't realize the value of LinkedIn. And one of our clients reached out to us via LinkedIn. They saw that we staff in New Mexico, and they reached out and wanted to find out about services that we can offer. We get phone calls all the time from places that you wouldn't think would notice us, because we have a LinkedIn profile, we have a Facebook profile, we have an Instagram profile. So you never really know where people are looking. And now that more people are working from home, you really want to make sure that you have a presence in all those platforms. And you can do videos. If you have a website, most people are set up through Google. So your website can be searched through Google, a blog. If you're in a particular niche market, such as labor and delivery, or cardiac or critical care, healthcare staffing, a blog would be a great resource, because it will provide a little bit of more information about how you can accommodate a client's staffing needs under these circumstances where people who have cardiac or critical care issues, or who are having a baby, still need to get care. So you can address how you're kind of preparing your staff, or how you're educating your staff on making sure that they're staying safe during these times for those types of niche specialties. You can do promotions. I think it was today I saw a promotion by a well-named staffing agency on Instagram, an agency that I follow on Instagram, and they were doing a giveaway of a variety of different prizes. And a lot of times they focus their giveaways around getting more followers. So the more followers you have, the more presence you have, and the more people hear about you and or share you within their circles. So the next step in the process. So what are some tangible things you can do today, tomorrow, because tomorrow's Friday, to actually market your business? So I talk about accessing your clients. So these are your potential clients. Like, where are they? We talked about those questions. You kind of have buzzing in your head. But sometimes they're in front of you, and they can be people who were business referrals. I refer all types of clients to fellow NOSAs. Just because I can't service all the business, why not refer it to another NOSA who's in the same industry? Those are definitely options to access clients who have needs. Previous employers. We had the great opportunity to actually have one of our first clients be a previous employer. That's a great way to get started. While you're at work, whether it's something full-time or part-time or PRN or all the jobs, you have more than one, kind of find out if that particular facility or healthcare system uses staffing agencies, and take out the time to kind of get an understanding of the process, so that when you're on the other side of things, you can maybe help that employer staff, and you've already established a business relationship with them. So that's helpful as well. You can access potential clients through networking and civic events. Now, this gets a little bit tricky because there's actually no conferences happening this year. But I will say a lot of your conferences that maybe last year did a digital element to their conference, this year is offering their conferences through digital formats. The Small Business Administration hosts workshops, and myself and a couple of other people had expected to attend this year. It's not happening in person, but they're offering that same conference via online Zoom meetings. So it's broken out into multiple sessions. You still have speakers, you still get presentations, and it's a great way to network. So I'm going to say that in the group, the small business workshop. So I'll save that link for you guys, and you should join. Usually the price is discounted. I think it's still free because the Small Business Administration Workshop was already free. So I'll save that in the group if you guys are interested in attending. I think they're going to do a couple of different workshops each month. I'm not exactly sure if the one for this month has already happened, but a lot of your civic organizations are doing the same thing. They're doing what we're doing here, hosting a Zoom meeting, hosting a group of people who have similar interests where, of course, we can't meet in person, but we can still do information sharing, exchange content and resources so that we can kind of continue the networking process, but just in a different way. And I would encourage you guys amongst yourselves or within the NOSA group to look into doing those types of things as well with regards to doing networking in a non-one-on-one person setting. Accessing your clients through social media, I already touched on that. Connecting to your community. One of the great resources that we have in our communities is a local chamber of commerce, and as well as a small business administration or small business development center. They all kind of call them different things, but I encourage you guys to join your local chamber of commerce, and there you'll kind of get more information about what's going on in your community, and that is so key. An example of this is I live in Delaware. And Delaware is a small state, small cities, not much happening beyond the beach, but we're in quite a proximity to a lot of major metropolitan cities. And while there, we only have, the city that I'm in maybe has 2 hospitals, like 2 major hospitals that are a 20-mile radius from each other. And as I was a part of the local chamber of commerce a year or so ago, and I would attend the meetings or kind of participate in their networking event, I saw a sign one day that said that a new hospital or an extension of one of the hospital systems was being added in the town over from where I was. So when I went into our local chamber of commerce meeting, I wanted to ask questions like, when is the hospital going to be ready? How big is the hospital? What types of acuity or specialties are going to be in the hospital? How many employees did they anticipate to staff in the hospital? Are they going to also have clinics? So connecting to the community not only gets you information about businesses trying to get into that community, but it also gives you the opportunity to ask questions about those businesses that are coming. So again, I encourage you guys to join your local Chamber of Commerce, your Business Development Center, SBA, Small Business Administration, your local chapters, because they have a lot of information and resources, and 9 times out of 10, it's free. The last 2 things that I want to touch on as far as getting access to your potential clients include cold calling and email and marketing campaigns. So many people do cold calling. I am not exactly sure how effective it is, mostly because cold calling might get you this. It'll get you the right person to talk to, but typically cold calling won't get you a phone call with that person. So if you decide to incorporate cold calling, which I think is definitely a viable option for healthcare staffing agency owners, be mindful of what your expected result is from doing it. So if you're trying to get in touch with a person that can make decisions with regards to getting a contract, cold calling may not be as effective. But if you want to find out who that person is, then I would highly encourage doing cold calling. A lot of people have used marketers, and that's more of a personal choice. I personally prefer to do the initial marketing of any of my businesses myself. And then once I kind of have it down to a science or a routine, share it with others that are supporting what I'm trying to do. What might be more effective than cold calling as far as actually being able to have a one-on-one conversation with a person that can make a decision with regards to contracts or staffing for that facility is email marketing. So they either call it email marketing or email campaigns. Many of you guys might have heard about the staffing agency mastermind through an email campaign. And the great thing is that Google and a lot of other office small business platforms offer email marketing and campaign as a resource within your email inbox. So you can set up a campaign and send out a message to a bunch of different emails. It'll tell you who opened the email, how soon they opened it, if you have a link in there for them, if they click the link. It'll also touch on, how many people clicked the link, how long they were on the link, and all the information that you kind of need on the back end to kind of say, was it effective for me to send out an email campaign to share within my community or within a group about my business. So if you have a bunch of emails from a couple of different companies that you want to reach out to, if you get people to open and click and actually look at the email, then that kind of tells you that that style of marketing is effective. Now, depending on what's in the body of the email, like if you want people to go to a video or go to your website, then that, that kind of also takes into account. And maybe next week, I'll kind of show you guys the email campaigns that I've done through Google. So Google is the platform that I use for all of my business office related things. So I use Google Sheets, Google Slides, Gmail is my email that's connected to my website. But there's also other platforms such as Office 365 and some other office platforms that people can use as well. And then the last one is partnerships. So anybody that's focused to me or connected with me knows that I'm big on partnerships and collaborations. They're key in the industry. Not every situation is something that's going to have the immediate result, but being open to partnerships can open doors for you later on down the line. It can also expose you to bigger contract opportunities because it can kind of put you around people who are in that space. So I definitely encourage you all to consider partnership opportunities in states where there may be a few other NOSAs, whether it be that, hey, you as a NOSA have a lot of staff that are ready to work, and maybe another NOSA has a lot of contracts. So there may be like a partnership or nurse sharing, as we refer to it sometimes, opportunity there. So be open to those types of things as well, which is mutually beneficial. We want our nurses working, so it won't matter that they're not working for my age at this time, as long as we keep them working. So the last one, which is my favorite one with regards to accessing your clients, is the Medicare.gov website. So I'm going to stop sharing here, or actually I'm just going to click on the website. So I'm going to and I'm going to guys through. There's a step-by-step guide already in the group. So if I move too fast, the step-by-step will start to be there. And here is where you are able to find a client. So what I'm Medicare, and you want to click on Find Care, search all providers and facilities. Once you click on that, give my computer a little bit of time. Providers, so about 95 or so % of long-term care, LTAC, hospitals, inpatient rehabilitation centers, hospice, doctors, dialysis centers, home health care, nursing homes, take Medicare. So that's what makes this website so great, is because you're really getting a good pool of people who can be potential clients. So I go on nursing homes. And once you click on nursing homes, you can click
other options, like I said, dialysis links on there, it's hospitals. I'm going to click on nurse. So I'm going to put in my zip code. So my home zip code here. I would like for you guys to put in your own zip code. And it's for Dover, Delaware. And if you know the name, you can put the name in, but I wouldn't encourage doing anything different than the zip code because it's going to limit the pool of information that it brings back. You're going to click on the search box here. And it's processing. So give it a little bit of time. So, and I talk about it in the next few slides that you guys are going to see, and in the step-by-step guide that I have within the group. So it brought back 59 nursing homes. So there's 59 nursing homes. So what I encourage you, if you get less than 50 or so returned facilities or nursing homes or hospitals, modify your search and change it to a wider radius. So we got 50, which is more than enough. And from there, a lot of people use this tool when they're going from the hospital into a skilled nursing facility or rehab center or hospital to kind of determine whether or not it's a good place to go. But as a healthcare staffing agency, this tool is really good because it allows you to see what's in your area. A lot of times when we market, we only market based on what we see. But this particular result shows that there's 59 nursing homes in the Dover, Delaware area. And I'm going to talk a little bit about how to use this. So you can always for me, I just do the results list just because, like I said before, I'm in a small town. I know where all these places are, so it doesn't really require that I see it on a map. But for people who are in bigger states like Pennsylvania or Florida, and you get a big result and you maybe want to see where they are on the map, you can use the map view. But I'm going to go back to the result list. And on here, I'm going to show you guys how to organize it so that you can begin the process of marketing your agency to these facilities. Okay, so we're back here, and before you start marketing or calling, because they always have a phone number, an address, and a name, I want you guys to really look at this. So this is kind of what's important when it comes to using the Medicare.gov, is every year facilities who accept Medicare go through a review with the with Health and Human Services and CMS to make sure that they're meeting specific requirements, similar to the state survey, but on a federal level. And they get kind of rated based on their overall rating, any health inspections, which is done at the state level, staffing matters, quality measures, and then distance. Okay. So, well, this is just showing the distance. So they're rated on a scale of 1 to 5, and 5 being that you're above average and you're doing really, really well. So when you look at this, initially, I really want you to focus in on the staffing here, because that's what we're here to do. We're here to find a place that needs staffing. So it's done every year, as I mentioned before. And one of the ways to use this resource is we want to start with the places that need staff. So if you go here, it's a sort option, and instead of seeing the sort by name and zip code, we're going to see it by the places that rated the lowest when it comes to staffing their facility. And these are the places that I would start with when it comes to marketing to potential clients. And if you want to get more details about what's going on, you can always click here. And I'm not going to do that in this instance, but you're going to click here and it'll give the different reports, like you can see a copy of their overall star rating, their health inspection. For some, if they got flagged by anything, it'll show here. But the strategy that we use or that we came up with that's been the most effective is calling these places first, and then also calling the places that have 5-star too. And one of the reasons you want to reach out to these places is because they're already showing that they have a staffing issue. So when you're much below average when it comes to the star rating, it means that you're really at a constant staffing need. And the state, the federal government has identified it. You know, they base it on specific parameters. So this is why this is such a great tool. So if we go down, and like I said, I'm only, focusing on the staffing piece, you'll see that there's quite a few facilities not too far or within that 50-mile radius of me who have 1 and 2 stars. So those are the places that I would put my initial focus or do the initial reach out. And then from there, I'd also work into doing my facilities that are more highly rated, like the 3 stars, just because you never know. So this can be printed out. So I encourage people to print it out, or I think I have the option for some computers to save it as a Microsoft Office document. So it can be printed out as simple as a list. You print it out your computer and you can cross off, or put it into a spreadsheet where you can kind of see the results of your progress on reaching out to those facilities. So that's that. And as I mentioned before, so here it is as well. You want to enter your zip code, find care. You can click on providers, hospice, hospitals, different providers. If you get a small number of facilities, which I would consider less than 50, then I would expand the search to a 75 or 100-mile radius. And as I mentioned, you get a drop-down list of the name of the facility, the address, and then you may not get the website, but you get the name of the facility where you can use Google to search a website. So this is just kind of the screen print of the steps. You go here, you click here, which one you want, and then you put in your, and then from there you're able to search your zip code. So when I think about, when I start doing that type of reach out, a big part of that is going to be incorporated in your cold calling. So as I mentioned before, having those different presence on Facebook and different social media platforms helps with cold calling, because when you follow up, you can actually refer them to your website or your Facebook page or your Instagram or your LinkedIn to just get more information about who you are. And as I mentioned, I'll do a separate video probably on Tuesday to talk about the email marketing campaign, but I believe Katie touches a lot more on that in her sessions. So when you're starting to reach out to clients, you want to make sure that you're ready. You want to make sure that even if the first person you talk to can't give you the answer and maybe refers you to somebody else, you always want to make sure that you have the materials you need. And towards the end, I'll touch on the script that I've used and I've shared with others. So you want to make sure that if you do talk with somebody, whether it's via email or phone call, whatever you're sending them as a follow-up is something that you proofread. You maybe had somebody else read. Anything on your social media, you want to make sure that it's representative of your organization. It's, socially friendly, and it kind of attracts the people that you're looking to attract, as well as any flyers or posters that you might have on your website. You want to kind of do a quick check of those things, as well as a way for people to get in touch with you.
I know, as you guys will know when you do some of your cold calls, sometimes you're nervous. And sometimes, for me, sometimes you talk too fast. That's my thing. But sometimes you forget things. But the key things you can't forget is your contact information. You want them to reach back out to you. Even if they reach back out to you and say, oh no, we're not interested right now. You always want to make sure to leave them some sort of information that they can use to be able to get in touch with you. So the 3P process is essentially making sure that you're prepared, making sure that you're persuasive and persistent. So we kind of talked about getting prepared. So the other thing is being persuasive. So some of the skills as a new entrepreneur, you might already have in place, but some of the skills you might need to work on a little bit. So a big part of marketing is sales. So when we talk about persuasive, we kind of touch a little bit more on the actual sale. So you want it where you're either at the end of the conversation, they're interested in you're sending them a contract, or you're setting up a follow-up meeting to do a presentation. You always want there to be some sort of action at the end of your conversation with these clients. And one of the ways that you can be persuasive is to think about it from their perspective. One, you always want to go in knowing that you're the expert, as well as really consider what's in it for them. Like, what are you bringing to the table as a staffing agency owner that other agencies may not bring, that sets you aside, that would make them want to consider working with you? And when I touch on being an expert, I'm really talking about you're the healthcare professional. You know how things work on the inside. We know all the many organizations that do healthcare staffing in this industry, but many of them, whether it's the marketing people, the recruiters, the corporate people, the accounting, the human resources, many of them don't know what happens on the inside of a med surgical floor, an ICU floor, or at a long-term care center, an LTAC hospital, and a dialysis clinic. They don't know. They don't understand how it works. Many of them have learned, but you already know that. So you kind of have a built-in access to information. So when you're talking to clients, you want to talk from that space. Like, you want to talk and find out from them, hey, what are your needs? You know, are you working with other agencies? Are you having staffing issues? What types of issues do you have? What types of staffing issues are you having? Who are the types of, or what are the types of roles that you actually staff for in your facility? And I'll touch a little bit of that more so on the phone script. So there's a phone script. Then finally, you want to be persistent. So at any point at the end of the conversation, and you kind of, you know, give them information about who you are and what you do, you definitely set yourself up and express yourself in a way of showing that you're an expert in the industry. You also want to make sure that you follow up with them. Many times, and myself included, you get a no. But for me, no does not mean not at all. It just means not right now. So to kind of get yourself to the place where they're saying no in January, but maybe saying yes in June or September, you need to be following up. And you just want to kind of be mindful, engage the follow-up. So you don't want to be staffing agency that's just calling and emailing all the time. That's overload. You just want to kind of be consistent with the person, also because management changes. You know, your director of nursing changes, the nursing supervisor changes, the scheduler changes. We know in this industry, it can change from month to month, day to day, really depending on what's happening in that facility. So that person who was there in place to make that decision 6 months ago might not be there anymore. So it would behoove you to follow up, because the person that's in place now might be the individual that can say yes to a potential contract opportunity. So in your follow-up emails, just like in your phone call conversations, you want to keep it short and sweet. You want to do it in a couple of days so that they can remember you. You also want to make sure that you're providing them with something that's tangible to remember you by. That can be a flyer or a PDF or a newsletter or your website, something that they'll, when they look at whatever you've attached, they'll remember you in the conversation that you had. So you always want to include that, as well as stay connected. You know, you can tell them, you know, when you send the email, feel free to follow us on Instagram or Facebook. So you always want to keep touch and make it easy for them to keep in touch with you. So the phone script, and as I mentioned before, you guys let me know. We'll definitely go over this more in depth one-on-one. But the phone script is just a sample script of what I've used and what I've kind of tweaked. Just because you really only get 10 to 15 minutes when you speak with someone. And that could be someone who's going to send you to somebody else, but you really want to get it out there, get comfortable with it, especially if you're not a person who's comfortable with making those types of calls. You want to personalize it to you. So the way that I might do the phone script would look different than the next person. So you want to definitely personalize it to you and your agency. And you also want to do it with enthusiasm. You know, you're talking to somebody who could be your potential client, your potential first client. So when talking to them, you always want to be enthusiastic, and you should be. This is an opportunity. This is a door that can be open for you. So I'm not going to go over the phone script. It's here for you guys. It's saved in the group. But on our one-on-one sessions, we'll definitely touch a little bit more on it, is that you can personalize it so that it most reflects what it is that you're trying to do as a healthcare staffing agency owner. And then at the bottom of the script, I just have a couple of questions that I typically ask clients. But the key thing about when you ask clients questions, you want them to be doing way more talking than you. So when you ask questions of them, you always want them to be open-ended questions. You want them to, for instance, in this one, have you ever worked with an agency to staff for those types of positions? What are some of the staffing challenges you are currently experiencing? And then the last one, would you mind if I can set up a time this week to come by? Of course, that really won't apply now, but you can always say, you know, would you mind if I can set up a time this week to do a Zoom session with you, to do a Google Meetup or a WebEx with you to tell you a little bit more about my organization. So those are all ways to personalize it and just make it really easily accessible for them so that they can easily say yes. Oh, you're going to set it up. All I have to do is show up. I have 30 minutes, you know, as well as you want to be respectful of people's time. Healthcare is a 24-hour business. So if you are going to do a Zoom meeting or any sort of presentation with a potential client, keep it short. Like anything short of 30 minutes, unless there are multiple people there, might be too long. And if you guys have sample presentations that you want to either share with the group or talk with me during your one-on-one sessions, feel free to do so. And then the last reminder about the phone scripts is be prepared to make a great first impression. So when you get on the phone, I'm not going to tell you guys a lie. I'm nervous too. You know, you want to make sure that you're in the right state of mind. So if that means you have to drink your coffee or your green tea, or if that means that you have to hype yourself up with music or read inspirational quotes, whatever you have to do to make sure that you have a clear mind and in the right state of mind when you're talking to potential clients is key, because people pick up on that even on the telephone. You want to make sure that you're clear with them and precise. And in the situation where maybe you're trying to get to the right person, you know, ask specific questions. A great example of getting to the right person that I tell people is, it's always a great idea to start with the scheduler. Typically, your directors of nursing and your nurse supervisors aren't the people who make the decision when it comes to staffing. Human resources, That's probably a 50-50 place to start when you talk about getting to the right person. But when you're clear and precise about what it is that you're trying to do, that helps you help them get you to the right person. A lot of times your schedulers, your receptionists, staff members will know what's going on. And then you want to ask for what you want and what you can offer them. Being direct and precise really helps you save time, because there may be a facility that might say, oh, we don't use agencies. And that goes back to what I was talking about, no and not right now. That could very well be the case that they don't use agencies, but that could also open the door of opportunity for you to educate them about the benefits of using an agency. So when you have the time and you get to the right person, you want to be prepared for a couple of different answers. And it could be, sure, send me your contract. You want to make sure you have your contract. It could be, oh, well, let me have you talk to the administrator, or let me set up an appointment with you to tell us more about your agency. So whatever the answer might be on the other end of the phone, you always want to be prepared to ask for what you want and let them know what you can offer them. The last two things, share your contact information. It should be all over your email, any sort of social media websites that you have. It should be there. It should be easy to get to. And of course, if you're sending like a thank you email or a follow-up email, you always want to thank people for their time. And then of course, afterwards, for any presentations that you do, you want to follow up. So whether if you have a phone conversation, a great thing to do would be follow up with an email, because that gives you the opportunity to put more content about your organization in there. If you do something via email, you might want to follow up with a phone call, and vice versa. As I mentioned, when we kind of open the door into this topic of the phone calls and the marketing and the cold calling, for the most part, the idea of doing a site visit is probably out of the question at this stage in time for 100 different reasons, as you guys already know. But that doesn't mean that you can't market your agency, you can't get connected with your clients or potential clients. It just really means that you have to be a little bit more creative about it. So my second to last favorite piece of marketing is be social media friendly. So what that means to me is, if you're not on social media, specifically the three that I've listed here, but really any of them, the top 3 or 4, I'm gonna say the top 4 especially, or the top 2 especially, Facebook and Instagram. Add that to your SMART goals. I'm gonna set up my Facebook business page by August 10th. I'm going to set up my Instagram business page by August 15th. As I mentioned before, I'm going to do a separate video on Facebook Creator, because a lot of times us, myself included, are hesitant to get onto these platforms because they can be overwhelming. It's a lot of information. I will say that setting up your Facebook business page is definitely way user-friendly than it used to be. And Facebook and Instagram intermingle. So once you're able to set up your Facebook business page, you actually can link it to your Instagram and get messages and kind of do things on both platforms without exerting the work of, oh, I have to post this on my Facebook, then I have to go and post this on my Instagram. I think LinkedIn might have some of those same similar features. And then of course, Twitter and YouTube are separate. So the least you can do this week, guys, and you know I love to give homework, is set up all of these accounts. So you don't have to post anything on them, but definitely take out the time or commit to one of those being your SMART goals, is to set up one of these types of accounts. And that really just kind of gives you a place to share information. One of the members mentioned, which I'm sure you guys have the question about, well, I haven't opened the business yet. What would I put on the actual page? You can put coming soon. You can put facts and information about COVID-19 or any niche area that you're working in or you plan to staff in. You can talk about a couple of different things early on, just to kind of get people buzzing about what it is that you're doing and following you, so that when the agency actually opens and launches, they're already in queue. So if you guys do have your social media set up, feel free to share it in the group, because I want to follow you guys. As I mentioned, I am on all of these platforms, and it's set up as at THENOSA group. So it's at the NOSA group. So all of these platforms, I think most of you guys already follow me on Facebook. For Instagram, LinkedIn, and Twitter and YouTube, it's at thenosagroup.com. So that's also an important thing to remember, is you want to make it as easy, not only for people who follow you, but also for yourself to access. So that's why I chose at the NOSA group for all of my social media platforms. And some of them I'm more active in than others. I was able to find, and I'll share with you guys, Facebook Creator to be a lifesaver. And for some of you guys who have kids who are in their 20s or teens, a lot of them are at home and maybe a little bit bored. Use them as a resource of not only information, have them set up your Facebook page. We want it to be a Facebook business page, and then you can link it to your Instagram business page. And then the LinkedIn and Twitter would be separate accounts, but have them help you with it. You know, a lot of them are so savvy about it. There's so many different tools beyond just these 5 that I've listed. You know, there's Snapchat, and there's some other ones. I can't think of all of them that people use. So you want to kind of cover all your bases. And one thing that you guys, I'm sure, have realized recently is that a lot of healthcare professionals are on these platforms. Facebook has hundreds, maybe thousands of healthcare related groups. The group that I run is one of them, but there's so many job related groups out there, you would be surprised. And you want to make sure that your business can be represented there when you begin recruiting. So it's a good time to go ahead and start. And a lot of companies are using social media now that more of us are at home to share job opportunities. A lot more clients are on social media. So you want to make sure that you take out the time to have a presence there yourself, even though your agency hasn't launched yet. So what I tell people to put on their page is coming soon. You want to talk a little bit about, in the info section, who you are, what your agency is about, types of positions that you're going to be recruiting for. You can do informational or educational posts while you're getting the agency up and running. And what I think the industry calls like teasers, 60 more days if your launch date is in, later on in the fall, coming soon, or kind of talk a little bit about your progress. Because the idea when it comes to social media is kind of making the connection. So they want to kind of connect with the person. They want to have a name to the face, to the person that they talk to on the phone, and get a semblance of who you are. So all of these platforms let you do that. As far as the last two, Twitter, I even have challenges with Twitter, but I do have a Twitter page. And YouTube, really all these different platforms kind of allow you to cover a variety of people in different demographics and different generations, because essentially different platforms kind of connect to different people. So being a part of all of them really allows you to expand your reach. So of course, social media, pictures and videos tell us a lot and are used daily in marketing to audiences to get your attention. It's a way to get potential clients. I touched on a client who reached out to us via LinkedIn. We're spending more and more time on these platforms. They're a great tool to help tell a story as well as market your business. So it's a great tool to kind of tell your journey about becoming an OSA, or if you're looking to do more than be an OSA, or open up a home care, or if you desire to open up a clinic. People really want to connect with you and with the person behind the business. So one of the things I thought about when I thought about like marketing, I thought about was like, what was the last thing, or what was the last time you made a purchase online? So for me, I made a recent purchase online. So I talk about how was this product or service marketed to you? And prior to opening my business, I wasn't a fan of Instagram, mostly because I didn't understand it. And I took a couple of courses in it, which was helpful. And I didn't also understand as a business owner, because I only use my Instagram for business, how to use it. So I took a course on it. And in that course, they kind of explained to me what it was about and that storytelling element, because I was under the perception that if I had an Instagram business page, I only needed to talk about business. And boy, was I wrong. And a lot of the posts that people heart or like or engage with are a lot of the posts that aren't as business related as much as it's more about who I am and what I do on a regular basis. So that's something to think about when you're posting on Instagram. So the last product or service that was marketed to me, and I had followed it for some time, so I do follow a couple of different companies on Instagram and social media, was a t-shirt. So I had never purchased anything on Instagram. I've seen it, I've hearted it, I've liked it, I've taken a screenshot of it, but I never made any purchases. And one day, not too long ago, I saw this awesome t-shirt, and the shirt just had a quote on it. It was a plain gray shirt with black letters of a quote. It wasn't anything magnificent as far as shirts are concerned. It was just really a t-shirt. And I just loved the message of the t-shirt. And then I had been following the person on Instagram for some time, so I also kind of connected with her story. So part of her Instagram touched on her story and her journey as a woman entrepreneur. And one day I just clicked on it and I decided I'm going to buy that shirt. And like I said, it was just a t-shirt. It wasn't anything extra special. It didn't have any bling on it. It just had writing. And when I made the purchase of the shirt, I also purchased another shirt that she had on there for someone else. And the reason that I made both purchases was not only because I loved what she was doing, I felt like I connected with her story. I felt like, one, she's much like me, a woman business owner. She happened to be from the same state where I'm from, which is Maryland. And I just wanted to support what she was doing. So like I mentioned before, I had followed her for months maybe. And what she was doing wasn't like something really grandiose though. And for you guys who want to know who the Instagram person is, her brand is called Mess in a Bottle. But I just enjoyed what she was doing and I wanted to support it. So when you think about the impact of social media, she was able to get 2 buys from me, and she's done really, really well with what she's doing. But the influence goes beyond just the purchase. So that's why it's important when you're setting up your social media to make sure that you're not only focused on the sale of the product or the service, but actually creating that connection, which a lot of people are looking for to you in the business. So creating a brand. So I mentioned again, I'm going to tell you guys again, all you guys who are doing the brand management website with Katie, she gets into it on a whole nother level than what I'm going to do. I'm just going to give you an overview, and she's definitely going to go way more in depth. And it's important to take some time with that because you want to make sure that your brand is consistent. Early on in the call, I touched a little bit on Apple and their branding and their marketing. So no different than the branding and marketing that I do with the NOSA group. You want to make sure that the imagery, the message, the content is consistent throughout, and it kind of sends the intended outcome that you're looking for. So creating a brand, some things to think about, which I'm sure will be touched on in the brand management section. When you think about staffing agencies, what agencies come to mind? So when I think about staffing, I think about agencies like Aya with the little orange and white background. I think about Maxim with the big M. I think about AMN with the red capital letters. So they've done such a good job branding that for me, when I hear the name, I not only know who they are, but I know the sign, I know the symbol, I know the design, and I know what they do. So when you set up your agency, you want to kind of think about all those types of things, as well as what 3 words come to mind when people think about your brand. So for some people, they create a brand that has a tagline to it. For some people, they have like specific words that connect it. For me, part of my brand with the NOSA group is the blocks, the orange blocks. For me, they're representative of building blocks, which is kind of what it is that I try to do when it comes to not only a staffing agency, but also a consulting agency. Is to kind of build and help people grow and build themselves, as well as build staffing agencies. So that's kind of the idea I was having when I looked at my particular symbol. But as you're going through, and if you've already started the process and done these things, you want to kind of backtrack and make sure that you have a brand and a name that's reflective of that. And I believe in the brand management portion of the course, they talk about like colors and all those things. And understand you're not going to always get it right the first time around. So for me, if any of you, because we have a couple of nurses that have been with me for a moment in my group, I changed the color. I changed the look of things over the last 6 months. And I've kind of reached a place where I'm most comfortable with what everything looks like. But sometimes you might have to change it a couple of times to get it quite right. So the main thing is you want to make sure that you create an image, a brand, a logo, a tagline, or a combination of all those things that really embody the qualities and the things that you want people to have in mind when they think about your staffing agency. Again, when you're doing your brand, be creative. It's a reflection of you. Be consistent. Be consistent across all of your platforms, from your website to your social media to anything that you may do on print, and follow your instincts. One of the things I mentioned when it says I changed my logo, it took me a while to even come up with a name. And then I played around with the colors earlier this year, and then I kind of settled on this green color that you guys see now, and it works. And that was kind of the instinct and the look and feel that I was going for when I think of the NOSA group. So I'm happy with it, but that's not where I started. I took a couple of risks when I did just like the lettering and putting the blocks in, and people kind of trying to understand and get an understanding of like what does NOSA mean. And one of the great things is that was maybe a year ago, but now people use it as a term. They refer to themselves as being NOSAs or nurse-owned staffing agencies. So take risk. And most of all, just like with anything, get started. So again, if you haven't added it to your SMART goal, I've gotten 2 SMART goals for you guys to do this week to add to your list already. And then the last thing, this kind of wraps up the whole brand thing, is share your brand. Share your brand on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter. I call Facebook, for me, because I've probably been on Facebook the longest, it's a marketing tool that many people associate with Yellow Pages. As a person who's been on both sides of the spectrum, where I've been a travel nurse who's looked for opportunities, and then I've been an agency owner, when I hear about a new agency, or when I see different job opportunities or I hear about new agencies out there, I go to their Facebook page first. I go to their Facebook business page. I want to see, what is their brand about? What are the reviews that people have said about them? What types of posts are they making, or products or services that they're offering? So know that other people do it too. So just not me. And then the same thing with Instagram. Very similar, but it's more of a visual platform where people can see the story or see the journey. Like if you go from the beginning of my Instagram till now, you'll kind of see that transition and that transformation through pictures. And a lot of people enjoy it because it allows you to get a more personalized experience, as well as highlight activities in other parts of your life, as well as things you do in the community. So if I meet up with other NOSAs, which was the plan at the beginning of the year, it's still the plan. But if I meet up and connect with other NOSAs, I share it there because that's part of the community that I built. That's important to me. Or if I do projects with other fellow NOSAs, I share it on my Instagram because I want people to know that that's a big important part of my brand when I talk about collaborations and partnerships. And then finally, Twitter. I still struggle with Twitter, but I do it. So Twitter is for people who want quick updates. So Twitter is really a great environment for clients because a lot of times if clients are looking for information, they could just go onto Twitter and see something really quickly. As well as LinkedIn. I didn't touch a lot on it, but I believe in your brand management course, Katie goes in depth about LinkedIn. So I would definitely touch bases with her. I think she's mastered LinkedIn and can definitely give you a lot of resources and information about it. But like I mentioned before, set up your LinkedIn and use that as a way to connect with clients as well as maintain a consistent brand. So just a couple of reminders. We've gone over a lot of content today. And as I mentioned, like marketing and business operations, both of these presentations are pretty in-depth. I'll begin over the next week or so to break them down into smaller subsets. So I'll do a separate video on Medicare.gov and kind of how you can use it to market for clients. And then I'll do another video on Facebook Creator and kind of how you can set those things up. But I just love to give an overview and then put together the smaller presentations just for more in-depth information. And as always, if you have questions or information that you want more clarification on or that might be missing, definitely feel free to reach out. So just a couple of things to remember is with marketing, you want to have a plan. You want to have a strategy. You want to have a process in place. You want to know what you're doing it for, why, who are your clients. A lot of those questions we touched on early on. When you're out there doing it, like what type of marketing are you going to do? Are you going to do print? Are you going to do social media? Are you going to do cold calls? Are you going to do all three, which is what I would definitely suggest. If someone's going to help you with those things, who are those people and what are they going to be doing? Have you made it clear to them, what you want them to be doing? If you want them to just set it up for you, or if you want them to run your social media. And then finally, some marketing reminders for those of you guys who get the opportunity to do site visits. I just tell people to stay away from Mondays and Fridays just because that's typically when a lot of facilities have their big meetings, facilities, hospitals, centers, and clinics. You want to make sure that you're always following up via email, as well as if you can't do a site visit and you decide to do a presentation similar to what I'm doing with you guys via Zoom or WebEx or GoToMeeting or Meetup, Google Meet, reach out to me and I can kind of help you work through some of these things as far as putting together a cohesive presentation. And then whether you do a presentation, a phone call, an email, a site visit, you always want to make sure that you're following up. So you want to follow up in some form or capacity. It could be a phone call or an email, but you want to kind of stay connected with them so that they can reach out to you and kind of give you a concrete answer. So the efforts that you put towards marketing the best way to know that it's effective is to make sure that you've gotten a concrete answer. That could be a yes, no, or maybe. And then you can kind of really evaluate whether or not it was effective. So if the cold calling phone calls didn't get you in touch with anybody, then you want to look at a different way to do that. If you did the Medicare.gov and you reached out and you weren't able to get anywhere with it, then you want to kind of relook at what you're doing in that process and ways that you can improve it. And then the last part is persistence and being persuasive. Being persuasive for me is just kind of the what's in it for them. Ask for what you want and what's in it for them. And that can look similar to the phone script that I shared with you guys, but I would really, really heavily encourage you to create something that's reflective of your personality. So if I'm a client and you're selling me on your services that you have in staffing, I don't want you to sound like me. I want you to sound like yourself. So the wording, the technique, even the follow-up email or the communication should be reflective of what you have to offer as a healthcare staffing agency. And then as always, reach out. So you want to be persistent. You don't want to be a bother, but you want to be persistent, especially in those instances where you maybe have gotten a maybe or no. And the key part of being persistent is that healthcare changes all the time. They change people, management changes, hospitals and healthcare systems are bought out on a regular basis. So the person that told you no or maybe, or we don't work with agencies, might not be there in 2 or 3 months from now. But if you kind of made a consistent contact with someone from that facility, or you kind of stayed in touch, then when you go back and revisit it, you won't have to start over from scratch. You can kind of just start where you ended and kind of see if that's an opportunity that you can explore with a newer person or management that's in place. So I'm going to wrap it up and give you guys an opportunity to ask questions. It looks like we've been on here for about an hour. As usual, I got another quote for you guys. And this one is actually from a VP of marketing at HubSpot, Megan Keeney Anderson. And it says, don't push people to where you want to be, meet them where they are. So that really touches home when I talk about the social media piece, or even just kind of how marketing has changed for us here in 2020 with COVID-19. Most people aren't going to do one-on-one meetings. So we need to meet them where they are. For you guys who may not be comfortable with different things, whether it's the phone scripts or the cold calling or Zoom meetings or any of those things, during our one-on-ones, bring those things up to me and we'll kind of work through it. I'll try to put something together that kind of touches on the presentations and meetings piece. As many of you guys, that'll probably be a viable option for you all. But meet them where they are. You want to reach out to people on social media. That's where many people are. You want to, connect with different organizations. And even though most conferences in person are canceled, if they offer a virtual version of those things, go to them. Attend, network, reach out to your fellow NOSAs and members in the group, connect with those people, because you never know what that situation might become. So I got a little bit of a homework assignment for you guys. And I did want to say with the homework, it's just to kind of keep you on track. I'm not checking the homework. So it's to help you stay on track with what you're trying to do with launching your agency. If you have questions about it, definitely feel free to connect with me. You can comment here in the group, or you can message me on the group or email. So I would really love to see you guys get started towards marketing your agencies and a marketing strategy. So one of the things I'd love to see you guys do is check out the Medicare.gov link and begin the process of identifying potential clients. So as I mentioned, there's a step-by-step guide already in the group. So you can use that, or you can go through the presentation again as well. I want you to think about what are some ways you can market your agency right now? Like, what are some things you can do? Of course, I'm going to say, go ahead and set up that website and that Facebook and that Instagram. Those are great ways to market your agency now. But if there's some other ways you want to market your agency, definitely consider that and get that going. But the homework assignments are just things to kind of keep you thinking about that particular topic and incorporating it into your day-to-day activities. And that is all I have for you guys tonight. Thanks for hanging out with me tonight. If you have any questions, feel free to drop it in the chat box. And one of the members did ask about the vendor management system. I think, I can't remember the person who asked. So